Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Badan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shrivasa Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we will continue from where we left. It is the 18th shloka of 6th chapter of the third canto. Okay. Vachamasya vinirbinnam vivashur dishnyam odish aushadihi amshena roma bi kandum yairaso pratipadyate. When there was a separate manifestation of skin, the controlling deities of sensation and their different parts entered into it, and thus the living entities feel itching and happiness due to touch. Okay. Purport. For sense perception, there are two principal items, touch and itching, and both of them are controlled by the skin and the hairs on the body. According to Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti, the controlling deity of touch is the air passing within the body, and the controlling deity of the hair on the body is Oshadhya. For the skin, the object of perception is touch, and for the hair on the body, the objects of perception is itching. Okay. Text 19. Medhram med medhram tasya vinirbinnam swadishnyam ka upavishad retasham shena yenasav anandam pratipadyate. When the genitals of the gigantic form separately become manifested, then Prajapati, the original living creature, entered into them with his partial semen, and thus the living entities can enjoy sex pleasure. Okay, so Gaudam Pumsho Vinirbinnam Mitro Lokesha Avishat Payunam Shena Yena Shau Visargam Pratipadyate. Then evacuating channels separately become manifest, and the director named Mitra enter into it with partial organs of evacuation. Thus, the living entities are able to pass stool and urine. Okay, text 21. Hastavasya vinirvinnav Indra Swar Patir Avishad Varta Yam Shena Purusho Yaya Vittim Prapadyate. Thereafter, when the hands of the gigantic forms separately become manifested, Indra, the ruler of the heavenly planets, entered into them, and thus the living entities is able to transact business for his livelihood. Okay. पादावश्य विनिर्भिन्नौ लोकेशो विष्णुराविशत् गत्या स्वांशेन पुरुषो यया प्राप्यं प्रपद्यते. Thereafter, the leg of the gigantic form separately become manifest, and the demigod named Vishnu not the personality of Godhead. So this is a demigod by name Vishnu, entered with partial movements. This helps the living entity move to his destination. Text 23. Buddhim chashavinarbinnam vagisho dishnyam avishad bodhenam shena bodhavyam praktipattir yato bhaved. When the intelligence of the gigantic form separately become manifest, Brahma, the Lord of the Vedas, entered into it with the partial power of understanding, and thus um, an object of understanding is experienced by the living entities. Okay. Hridayam chasya nirbinnam chandrama dishnamavishad manasa shena yena so vikiryam pratipadyate. After that, the heart of the gigantic form separately manifested itself, and into it entered the moon demigod with partial mental activity. Thus, the living entity can conduct his mental speculation. Now, whenever there is somebody is crazy, like no, we call them as lunatic. No, it's because it has a connection. The mind has a strong connection to the moon planet, and no, when people who are very not very saner in their thought process and things like that, they get affected on Paurnami and Amavasya, right? So that time they become very extreme in their actions. So because it has a very strong connection to the moon. So moon controls the waves in the ocean. Moon controls the mind of the people, and then moon also controls the flavor in the vegetation. So these are all some of the areas which the moon is in charge of. And here we see that the mental activity, no, that is also that is specifically mentioned here. Okay. Atmanam chasya nirbhinnam abhimano avishatpadam karmanam shena yenasho kartavyam pradipadyate. Okay. Thereafter, the materialistic ego of the gigantic form separately manifested itself, and into it entered Rudra, the controller of false ego, with his own partial activities by which the living entity transact his objective action. Purport. The false ego of materialistic identity is controlled by the demigod Rudra, an incarnation of Lord Shiva. Rudra is incarnation of the Supreme Lord who controls the mode of ignorance within the material nature. The activities of false ego are based on the objective of the body and mind. Most persons conduct uh, most persons conducted by the false ego are controlled by Lord Shiva. When one reaches a finer version of ignorance, he falsely thinks himself as the Supreme Lord. That egoistic conviction of the conditioned soul is the last snare of illusory energy which controls the entire material world. Right? So here we see that the false ego is also one of the elements. Bhumir, Apo, Analo, Vayu, Kam, Mano, Buddhir, Evancha, Ahankaram, Iti Me, Binna, Prakriti, Ashtada. So, original 8 elements of material nature. So, in that, the false ego is also one of them, and that is directly controlled by Lord Shiva, who is the master of the material world, right? So here we see that this false ego is false identification. So real identification is that we are servant of the Lord, and false identification has its innumerable permutation and combination. And the most greatest of all of them is that to think that think ourselves to be the Supreme Lord. So that's the greatest of illusions that a person may have. Okay. So text 26. Sattvam chasya vinirbinnam mahan dishnyam upavishat chittenam shena enashau vijnanam pratipadyate. Thereafter, when his consciousness, here it is mentioned as chitta, chittenam shena, along with this part of consciousness. Okay. So thereafter, when his consciousness separately manifested itself, the total energy Mahatattva entered with his conscious part. Thus, the living entity is able to conceive specific knowledge. Okay, text 27. Um, Shri Shirshno Sya दयुर्धरापद्भ्यां कं नाभेरुपपद्यते गुणानां वृत्तयो येषु प्रति प्रतीयन्ते सुरादयः. Thereafter, from the head of the gigantic form, the heavenly planets were manifested, and from his legs, the earthly planets, and from his abdomen, the sky separately manifested themselves. Within them, the demigods and others also were manifested in terms of the modes of material nature. Okay, text 28. Atyantikena satvena divam deva prapedire daram rajasvabhavena punyo ye cha tananu. The demigods, qualified by the super excellent quality of the mode of goodness, are situated in the heavenly planets, whereas the human beings, because of their nature in the mode of passion, live on the earth in company with their subordinates. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 14:14 to 15, it is said that those who are highly developed in the mode of goodness are promoted to the higher heavenly planetary system, and those who are overpowered by the mode of passion are situated in the middle planetary systems, the Earth and similar planets. But those who are surcharged with the mode of ignorance are degraded to the lower planetary systems or to the animal kingdom. The demigods are highly developed in the mode of goodness, and thus they are situated in the heavenly planets. Below human beings are the animals, although some of them mingle with human society, such as cows, horses, dogs, etc., are habituated to living under the protection of human beings. The word Atyantikena is very significant in this verse. By development of the mode of goodness of material nature, one becomes situated in the heavenly planets. But by excessive development of mode of passion and ignorance, the human beings indulge in killing the animals who are meant to be protected by mankind. Persons who indulge in unnecessary animal killing have excessively developed in the mode of passion and ignorance and have no hope of advancing to the mode of goodness. They are destined to be degraded to the lower statuses of life. So this is like, once it's like a whirlpool. It's not that they will not again come to goodness at all, but here it kind of says that in the near future, in the near future means for a very very long time, they will not be able to come to the mode of goodness because of their indulging in the mode of passion and ignorance in a very very gora rupa, very very strong and very forceful way, right? So they are killing animals, and they are living a very very degraded life. So then it becomes very difficult for them to come up, in the higher modes. So of course, if they can be introduced to Krishna consciousness by the culture of chanting the names of the Lord, and then by the culture of the devotional practices, they can be brought up. But then on their own, in the material calculation, we see that karanam guna sangosya sadasadyoni janmashu. Just by coming in contact with different modes of nature, we develop that particular mode. So that kind of a development is very difficult for these people, who are in deep levels of passion and ignorance. For them to come to the mode of goodness is very very difficult. So it requires a strong application of Krishna consciousness. So that is when they'll be able to come up. Okay. The planetary systems are calculated as upper and lower in terms of the classes of living entities who live there. Okay. Text 29. तार्थीयेन स्वभावेन भगवान् नाभिम् आश्रिताः उभयोरन्तरं व्योम ये रुद्र पार्षधां गणाः. Living entities who are associates of Rudra developed in the third mode of material nature or ignorance They are situated in the sky between the earthly planets and the heavenly planets. Okay, so the middle portion of the sky is called Bhuvar Loka, as confirmed by both Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Jiva Goswami. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that those who develop in mode of passion are situated in the middle region. Those who are situated in the mode of goodness are promoted to the regions of the demigods, and those who are situated in the mode of passion are placed in the human society, and those who are situated in mode of ignorance are placed in animal society, societies of animals or ghosts. There are no contradictions in this conclusion. Numerous living entities are distributed all over the universe in different planets and are so situated in terms of their own qualities in the modes of material nature. So here this Bhuvar Loka, what has been talked about, so that is in between the Swarga Loka and the Bhu Loka. So that's how, like this Bhu Bhuvar Swarga. So Bhu Bhuvar Swa, like it is there. So this is Bhu means the Bhu Loka, and Bhuvar means the Bhuvar Loka, and Swa means the Swarga Loka. So this Bhuvar Loka is the residence of the demons, and generally the sun rays like reaches only these three planetary systems. The upper planetary systems have better forms of illumination for them, and the lower planetary systems are called as patala. Patala means where it's a tunneled kind of a situation where the sun rays doesn't penetrate, right? So that's the condition. So this this Bhuvar and Swa, like that is the place where the sun rays actually reaches. And this Bhuvar Loka is specifically the residence of the demons. No, that's the place of like the Daityas or the demons. So here it is mentioned that living entities who are associates of Rudra developed in the third mode of material nature, that is ignorance. So Rudra or Lord Shiva is in charge of mode of ignorance, and like there are a lot of living entities who are generated in mode of ignorance, and they are residents of this middle planetary system, where Bhuvar Loka that is there. And specifically, like not just ignorance, they have a lot of great deal of passion as well in combination with ignorance. So that's how they are demons, and that's how they are there in this Bhuvar Loka. Okay, text 30. Mukto patha mukto vartata brahma purushasya kurudvaha yastun mukta muktavad varnam mukyo bhut brahmano guruhu. O chief of the Kuru dynasty, the Vedic wisdom became manifested from the mouth of Virat, the gigantic form. Those who are inclined to this Vedic knowledge are called Brahmanas, and they are the natural teachers and spiritual masters of all orders of society. Okay, so from the mouth of this, the Vedic wisdom become manifested from the mouth of the Virata. So now what we are studying is the Virata Rupa, right? So, and from the mouth of the Virata Rupa, the gigantic form, the Vedic knowledge comes, and then the Brahmanas are the natural, uh, protectors of this knowledge or practitioners of this knowledge, and they become the natural teachers of this knowledge, and they become the spiritual master of the all the various social orders, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Okay, purport. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, the four orders of human society developed with the order of the body of the gigantic form. The bodily divisions are the mouths, arms, waists, and legs. Waist and legs. Those who are situated on the mouth are called the Brahmanas. Those who are situated on the arms are called Kshatriyas, and those who are situated on the waist are called Vaishyas, and those who are situated on the legs are called Shudras. Everyone is situated in the body of the Supreme in his gigantic Vishwarupa form. In terms of the four orders, therefore, no caste is to be considered degraded because of being situated on a particular part of the body. In our own bodies, we do not show any actual difference in our treatment towards the hands or legs. Each and every part of the body is important, although the mouth is most important of the bodily parts. If other parts are cut off from the body, a man can continue his life But if the mouth is cut off, one cannot live. Therefore, this most important part of the body of the Lord is called the sitting place of the Brahmanas who are inclined to the Vedic wisdom. One who is not inclined to the Vedic wisdom but to mundane affairs cannot be called a Brahmana, even if he is born in a Brahmana family or a father. So here we see that Brahma Janati iti Brahmana, right? So it is very, very important. So who can be called as a Brahmana? One who knows the Brahman, one who knows the Supreme Absolute Truth, and one who engages in the cultivation of knowledge to attain the Supreme Lord. So such a person is called a Brahmana. No, it is not a birthright, it is a by qualification, right? Okay. To have a Brahmana father does not qualify one as a Brahmana. The main qualification of a Brahmana is to be inclined to the Vedic wisdom. The Vedas are situated on the mouth of the Lord, and therefore anyone who is inclined to the Vedic wisdom is certainly situated on the mouth of the Lord. And he is a Brahmana. This inclination towards Vedic wisdom is also not restricted to any particular caste or community. Anyone from any family, from any part of the world, may become inclined to the Vedic wisdom, and that will qualify him as a real Brahmana. A real Brahmana in the natural is a natural teacher of spiritual master. Unless one has Vedic knowledge, one cannot become a spiritual master. The perfect knowledge of the Vedas is to know the Lord, the personality of Godhead, and that is the end of Vedic knowledge or Vedanta. One who is situated in the impersonal Brahman and has no information of the Supreme Personality of Godhead may become a Brahmana, but he cannot become a spiritual master. It is said in Padma Purana, Sat Karma Nipuro Vipro, Mantra Tantra Visharadaha, Avaishnavo Gurur Nashyad, Vaishnava Swapacho Guruhu. Shat Karma, there are 6 kinds of different karmas are there. Shat Karma, Nipuno, Vipro. So Vipra means a very, very learned person in the Vedic knowledge, and he can do various different, what is that, rituals and sacrifices, for anyone. And then Mantra Tantra Visharada. So he is very, very like expert in Mantra Tantra. But then Avaishnavo, if he is not a devotee of Vishnu, if he is not dedicated himself for the service of Lord Vishnu, so then Guru Nashyad. So like he cannot become a guru. So Vaishnava, so a Vaishnava, a devotee of the Lord, even if he comes from Swapacho, means dog eater family, no, still he should be considered guru, because no, he has now developed the qualities of devotion to the Supreme Lord. So that is why this is a very important shloka which talks about this what is it, this caste system that is there, like we people talk about as the Hinduism has a lot of caste system and things like that. But where is it? No, our scriptures doesn't support it anywhere. So it just says that you become qualified and then you will be respected accordingly. And people over a period of time, they have made it birthright, and no, they have degraded a lot, right? So can we make the Supreme Court judge, like the position of Supreme Court judge, as a birthright? So if somebody is a judge and next his son has to become a judge, and can we make any government post as a birthright? So it's all qualification. You just qualify and then you occupy, right? So in the same way, here also we see that these Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So if we qualify to be one, so then we can be. So that's the position. Okay. An impersonalist can become a qualified Brahmana, but he cannot become a spiritual master unless and until he is promoted to the stage of a Vaishnava or a devotee of the personality of Godhead. Lord Chaitanya, the great authority of the Vedic wisdom in the modern age, stated, Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyashi Shudra Kenanai, E Krishna Tattva Vitha Se Guru Hai. So a person may be a Brahmana or a Shudra or a sannyasi, but if he happens to be well versed in the science of Krishna, then he is fit to become a spiritual master. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 8.128. The qualification then of a spiritual master is not to be a qualified Brahmana, but to be well versed in the science of Krishna. One who is conversant with Vedic wisdom is a Brahmana, and only a Brahmana who's a pure Vaishnava and knows all the intricacies of the science of Krishna can become a spiritual master. So, this is very nicely put. A Vaishnava only can become a guru, and if a person is a Vaishnava, if he is a person is like a devotee of the Lord, he naturally also becomes a Brahmana, by qualification, not by birth. He naturally also becomes a Brahmana by qualification. He will develop all the good qualities. Yashasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate suraha harava bhaktasya kuto mahat gunan manoratena asti davato bahi. So, like in a person who is a devotee of the Lord, all the good qualities will automatically manifest. So then naturally he can be a Brahmana. Okay, text 31. बाहुभ्यो वर्थथ क्षत्रं क्षत्रियस्तद् अनुव्रतः यो जातस्त्रायते वर्णाम पौरुष कंटक क्षतात्. Thereafter, the power of protection was generated from the arms of gigantic Virat form, and in relation to such power, the Kshatriyas also came into existence by following the Kshatriya principle of protecting society from the disturbance of thieves and miscreants. Purport. As the Brahmanas are recognized by their particular qualification of inclination towards the transcendental knowledge of Vedic wisdom, so also the Kshatriyas are recognized by the power to protect society from the disturbing elements of thieves and miscreants. The word anuvrataha is significant. A person who follows the Kshatriya principle by protecting society from thieves and miscreants is called Kshatriya, not the one who is simply born a Kshatriya. The conception of the caste system is always based on quality and not on qualification of birth. So there is another very important principle also. Not just a person who is just bodily very powerful, he becomes Kshatriya. So it's not. So it is a person who is desiring to protect the society from the thieves and miscreants. That's a very nice quality that is mentioned here. So they have a sense of like offering protection. They want to protect people, they want to protect the society. So such kind of people, they are termed as Kshatriyas. Okay, birth is an extraneous consideration. It is not the main feature of the orders and divisions. In Bhagavad Gita 18:41 to 44, the qualifications of the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras are specifically mentioned, and it is understood that all such qualifications are needed before one can be designated as belonging to a particular group. So here, this point, the birth is an extraneous consideration. That means it's an external consideration. So, but it's also considered, like in some cases, why it has become so much of caste system being the birthright. It's because in the Vedic times, people would follow samskars, and when they beget a children, so there is no confusion. A Brahmana's family, only a Brahmana will be born. Like in a Kshatriya's family, generally a Kshatriya only will be born. It's very rare a case where a Kshatriya is born of a Brahmana father, just like Parashuram is born of Jamadagni, right? So he's a Brahmana, but then Parashuram turned out to be a very powerful Kshatriya, right? So it is very, very rare a case like this, and generally it is not found in this way. So because their following of samskaras and their systems, the Vedic system was so perfect that they know the output, know what will be the output. They were very, very clear in their mindset and things like that. So in fact, one of the senior devotees was mentioning that in Kali Yuga, we are all confused beings. Like we are all picked up from the streets and trained up in Krishna consciousness. So we are all confused beings. To understand our Varna, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, is a very, very difficult task. But then if devotees, if they practice nicely, and then if they beget nice children, and the next generation that will come up, they will be very clear of their varnas. No, they will be, because of good samskaras that has been followed. So then the next output that comes, that becomes a clear kind of a generation that can be created. So right now, because of lack of Krishna consciousness, because of lack of Krishna consciousness of the previous generation, so we cannot be sure of what we are. And the further generation, when it comes, when proper Krishna consciousness is followed, so then at least 1 2 3 generations later, we will find more clearer and more these kind of demarcations naturally evolve, right? So when we follow the Vedic system, so that's the this one. The people who are right now, we see that people are so much dissatisfied. Why I am not able to do that work? Why only he is able to do? Why I am not able to do? And things like that. So, but if the Varnas are very clear, and the children are very nicely trained up in the Vedic system, they'll just be like, okay, this is my propensity, I'm doing. So what's the this one? What's the problem? I don't bother what anyone else is doing, right? So this is my propensity, and I can identify it, and this is what I want to do. And why to take so much of competition and tension in the occupational duty, though in the material occupation or the material engagement? So that will be very, very clear for well trained and well conceived Vedic children. So they will be very, very clear in their vritti. So they will not be having any confusion in their course of action, right? So okay, let's continue. Lord Vishnu is always mentioned as the Purusha in all Vedic scriptures. Sometimes the living entities are also mentioned as Purushas, although they are essentially Purusha Shakti. So that is Para Shakti or Para Prakriti. So Prakriti and Shakti are interchangeably can be used. No, both are same. So Para Shakti or Para Prakriti. So Krishna mentions in 7.5 Apariyayamitastvanyam Prakritim Vidhi Me Param. So Para Prakriti. So that is the living entities. So living entities, we are Shakti or Prakriti. So we can never be Purusha. The opposite of Purusha is Prakriti, right? So Purusha means the controller, Prakriti means the controlled. And we are all belonging to the category of Prakriti, but then sometimes we are called as Purusha. So why we are called as Purusha? Because we have the tendency to be the enjoyer. No, that's why we are called as Purusha. Actually, we are Prakriti, but because we have the tendency to enjoy, separate from the Lord, and not accepting the Lord as a Purusha and offering Him service, so we want to be a Lord ourselves or controller ourselves. So then sometimes, as an indication of what we are wanting to do, so the living entities are sometimes called as Purushas, or they are trying to enjoy the material nature. So they are called as Purushas, right? So, okay. The superior energy of the Purusha, so that is the living entity, is called as superior energy of the Purusha, Para Prakriti. Illusioned by external potency of the Purusha, the Lord, the living entities falsely think of themselves as Purusha, although they actually have no qualifications. The Lord has the power to protect. Of the three deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, the first has the power to create, the second has the power to protect, and the third has the power to destroy. The word Purusha is significant in this verse because the Kshatriyas are expected to represent the Purusha, Lord, in giving protection to the Prajas, or all those who are born in the land and water. So this is a very important thing, that Kshatriyas are meant to give protection. And who is the actual protector? The actual protector is Vishnu, and they should act as a representative of Lord Vishnu. So how do we act as representative of Lord Vishnu? So we understand what is the, if I working for a particular company, and then I am the representative of the company. So then I should know what the company's goals and values and principles and what they want to achieve and things like that. And then I do this very same thing. No, it's not that if I'm representative of a company, I can do anything and everything, and that's what the company will enjoy. No, the company will have its own set of values and principles and rules and regulations. So in the same way, if a Kshatriya is meant to protect as a representative of the Lord, so then he should consult the Lord as to what is that he needs to do, how is that he needs to protect. So he cannot just protect in any way he wants. No, like protection means like if a thief is, if or a sinful person has to be punished, and that is the protection that a Kshatriya is offering to that sinful person. So if he is a murderer or a thief, like he's cutting his hand off, and like that's perfectly okay, because that is what the scriptures talk about, like how to like punish a sinful person, and a Kshatriya is just following that, and that is for the ultimate well-being of the person who's going through the punishment. So if he is going through the punishment in the next life, he will not be what is that? He will not be charged. Right. So in Kali Yuga, that's a very, very worst scenario that's happening. The punishments to the problems are very easily people can escape the punishments if they have money and power and things like that. And then, like even otherwise, like generally, the punishment levels are all reduced and things like that, because it's all, everyone is a criminal. So then, how much criminals to punish? So they reduce the rules and regulations, and to some extent now we see like great deal, like killing of animals is legalized, and then drinking of wine is legalized, and many things are legalized, which are sinful, but then it's legalized. You can have, you can if you drink, nobody is going to ask you anything. If you like if you're a non-vegetarian, no government is going to come and punish you. But in the Vedic system, if somebody is like that, immediately the king would punish. So, and people would be freed from the sinful reactions immediately. So in Kali Yuga, it's only accumulation of sinful reactions and no mitigation. There is no avenue, very, very less avenue for mitigation. So people's life becomes so messy and disturbed, right? So messy and disturbed that they don't have a peaceful life, because so much of accumulation of sins, and no way to like nobody is there to punish and reduce the sins. No, even the person who is supposed to punish, he is also enjoying sinful life, and know what to speak of anyone else. So then there is no way of counteracting this sinful reactions, and people are overburdened with sins, and their lives are becoming pathetic and miserable, right? So this is called the anarchy, or arajaka. So means like there is no raja, there is no raja who can control, who can actually act in the position of a kshatriya king, right? So that's what is called as arajaka, right? So anarchy. uh, okay, so let's continue. Protection is therefore meant for both man and the animals. In the modern society, the prajas are not protected from the hands of thieves and miscreants. In the modern democratic state, which has no kshatriyas, is a government of the Vaishyas and Shudras, and not of Brahmanas and Kshatriyas as formerly. Maharaj Yudhishthira and his grandson Maharaj Parikshit were typical Kshatriya kings, for they gave protection to all men and animals. When the personification of Kali attempted to kill a cow, Maharaj Parikshit at once prepared himself to kill the miscreant, and the personification of Kali was banished from his kingdom. That is the sign of Purusha, or the representative of the Lord Vishnu. According to Vedic civilization, a qualified Kshatriya monarch is given the respect of the Lord because he represents the Lord by giving protection to the prajas. Modern elected presidents cannot even give protection from the theft cases, and therefore one has to take protection from an insurance company. The problem of modern human society are due to a lack of qualified brahmanas and kshatriyas, and the over influence of the Vaishyas and Shudras by so-called general franchisees. Okay, so we see that even the government also talks about economic development at the max. So they don't talk about culture, or they don't talk about like religious systems and things like that. So that's all is gone. It's all, dharma is completely knocked off. It is artha. It's like, is the economic development is what is the primary thing. And like the culture and the values and principles and things like that. It's a debatable thing, and nobody wants to get into it, and nobody wants to put down their foot and strongly implement, right? So that's the problem. Okay, text 32. Visho varthanta tasyorvor loka vrittika vrittikarir viboh vaishyastad ubavo vartham nrinam ya samavartyatha samavarthayat. Okay. The means of livelihood of all persons, namely production of grains and their distribution to the prajas, was generated from the thigh of the Lord's gigantic form. The mercantile men who take charge of such execution are called Vaishyas. Okay, for fourth, human society's means of living is clearly mentioned here as Visha or agriculture, and the business of distributing agriculture products, which involves transport, banking, etc. Industry is an artificial means of livelihood, and large scale industry, especially, is the source of all problems of society. In Bhagavad Gita, also, the duties of Vaishyas who are engaged in Visha, so that is are stated as cow protection, agriculture, and business. So they have already discussed the human being can safely depend on the cow and agricultural land for his livelihood, right? So this is the categorical engagement of a Vaishya. So the industries and the big industrial enterprises and companies and things like that, that is the thing which is actually breaking the whole system, which is bringing in the artificial means of livelihood. And then people are constantly threatened by loss of job and economic insecurity and things like that. But then if we are dependent on the nature, so it's much more safer actually. And people have stopped performing any yagya, so there is very scarce rains and improper rains and things like that, and because of which no we are no we are suffering with dry lands and farmers committing suicide and things like that. So it's basically because the dharma is wiped off, and then the proper system of governance is wiped off, and even the proper system of Vaishya Vritti is wiped off. Nobody is willing to do any agriculture. So in fact, we were near our land, and we there is nearby a village is there, and so much of land is vacant. And I asked the villagers nearby, like, no, why nobody is doing any cultivation? And they told, like, no, they are not interested in doing any agriculture. So they are sending the children to school, and they want them to go to the cities and things like that and all. So, and what will they do? They'll go and work for some salary in some industry, and where the production of grains happens, where the production of where the cow protection and agriculture happens, that is not considered to be a great job. That's not considered to be a like respectable kind of a vritti. So people are becoming very much conscious that, like, no, at least we have to send our children to cities, and they have to study there and things like that. So this is the problem. This is the problem which is like hitting the root of our system, right? Okay. We have already discussed that the human being can safely depend on the cow and agriculture land for his livelihood. Okay. The exchange of produce by banking and transportation is a branch of this type of living. The Vaishyas are divided into many subsections. Some of them are called Kshetri, the landowners, and some of them are called Krishna, the land tillers, and some of them are called Tilavanika, or the grain raisers, and some of them are called Gandhavanika, or the merchants in spices, and some of them are called Suvarnavanika, the merchants in gold and banking. The Brahmanas are the teachers and spiritual masters. The Kshatriyas protect the citizens from the hands of thieves and miscreants, and the Vaishyas are in charge of production and distribution. The Shudras, the unintelligent class of men who cannot act independently in any of the above mentioned activities, are meant for serving the three higher classes for their livelihood. Formerly, the Brahmanas were given all the necessities of life by the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas because they had no time to spend making a living. The Kshatriyas would collect taxes from the Vaishyas and Shudras, but the Brahmanas were exempted from paying income tax or land revenue. That system of human society was so nice that there was no political, social, and economic upheavals. The different castes or varna classifications are therefore essential for maintaining a peaceful human society. Okay, so we will continue a little bit more. Padhyam Bhagavato Jajñe Shushrusa Dharma Siddhaye Tashyam Jhata Pura Shudro Yadvritya Tushyathe Harihi. Thereafter, service was manifested from the legs of the personality of Godhead for the sake of perfecting the religious function. Such situated on the legs are the Shudras who satisfy the Lord by service. Service is the real constitutional occupation of all living entities. The living entities are meant to render service to the Lord, and they can attain religious perfection by this service attitude. One cannot attain religious perfection simply by speculating to attain theoretical knowledge. The Jnani division of spiritualists go on speculating only to distinguish the soul from the matter, but they have no information of the activities of the soul after being liberated by knowledge. It is said that persons who only mentally speculate to know things as they are and who do not engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord are simply wasting their time. It is clearly said here that the principle of service was generated from the legs of the Lord for the sake of perfecting the religious process. But this transcendental service is different from the idea of service in the material world. In the material world, no one wants to be a servant. Everyone wants to become the master because false mastership is the basic disease of the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul is in the material world wants to lord it over others, illusioned by the external energy of the Lord. He is forced to become a servant of the material world. That is the real position of the conditioned soul. The last snare of the illusory external energy, is the conception of becoming one with the Lord. And due to this conception, the illusion soul remains in the bondage of material energy, falsely thinking himself a liberated soul and as good as Narayana. Right? So this service is the basic principle. In fact, even in the spiritual elevation, the spiritual in the spiritual world, Dashya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. So these are all the different rasas that are there. Even there, the service is the natural and basic ingredient of every relationship of a liberated soul. No, like he be a friend of the Lord or a parent of the Lord or a lover of the Lord, whatever it may be. No, the service attitude is the most basic elementary thing that is required for spiritual advancement. And here we see that because of the illusory energy of the Lord, so a person wants to become the master and controller, and it goes to the level of becoming the God himself. Okay, it is actually better to be a Shudra than to be a Brahmana and not develop the service attitude, because that attitude alone satisfies the Lord. Every living being, even if he be a Brahmana by qualification, must take to the transcendental service of the Lord. Both Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam support that this service attitude is the perfection of living entity. A Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra can perfect his occupational duties only by rendering service unto the Lord. A Brahmana is supposed to know this fact due to his perfection in Vedic wisdom. The other sections are supposed to follow the direction of the Brahmana Vaishnava, one who is a Brahmana by qualification and a Vaishnava by action. That will make the entire society perfect in regard to the order of its social construction. A disordered society cannot satisfy either the members of the society or the Lord. Even if one is not a perfect Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, but takes to the service of the Lord, not caring for perfection of his social position, he becomes a perfect human being simply by developing the attitude of service to the Supreme Lord. So we fall under this category because we cannot clearly distinguish between this Varanas, like which Varana we belong to. In Kali Yuga, it becomes very, very difficult to clearly demarcate. But then this is the saving grace. If we can develop service attitude towards the Supreme Lord, we perfect our life. So even if we are not able to understand, which Varana we belong to, right? Okay, so there is some question in the chat box. Sloka 12 meaning was gross organs, Adi Bhota aspect, manifested in, no, not in Karanodakshaya Vishnu. It is the this one, Virata Rupa, that we are discussing actually. And so it is manifested in us. Yeah, like when it is manifested in the Virata Rupa, so that is the gigantic form of, it's actually, Virata Rupa is primarily an imaginary kind of a entity where it is conceptually present. It is not a physical entity. It's a conceptual entity. And sometimes the Lord manifests, um, like how he showed it to Arjuna, the Virata Rupa. So like that, sometimes Krishna manifests. So, but then it is mostly a conceptual entity. And then first, all these things are manifested in the body of the Lord. And then, we have, we get to have those organs, and not only the organs, the propensities and the uh, energy and everything comes from first being manifested in the body of Virata Rupa. Okay, so the soul was also first generated in Karnadaksha Vishnu. No, soul is never generated. Soul is always there. So we have studied that the living entities, there are a huge number of living entities are there in the spiritual world, who are willingly want to serve the Lord. And those living entities who don't want to serve the Lord are there in the material world. So in the material world, when there is no creation is there, so all the living entities are there in the body of Karanodakshaya Vishnu. And then when Karanodakshaya Vishnu creates individual universes, so these living entities are distributed into individual universes, and they rest in the body of Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. And then when like Brahma is created, and then Brahma creates further progeny. So these living entities are gradually let loose, and they get bodies in the universe to achieve their individual goals, like material goals and things like that. And once the creation is wound up, again they get to the body of Mahavishnu, Karanadaksha Vishnu, and they are never generated. They are just a, Karanadaksha Vishnu is a placeholder. He is just holding them for some time, till the time the creation happens, till the time like the pralaya is finished. So till then, like Vishnuji carries the living entities. They are not generated. So why did each deity take control of each organ, and Supreme Lord did not keep with himself? No, he is the master. Why should he get into petty things? No, like he has generated the living entities and the demigods, so they do everything. So it's like saying that why the CEO of a company has like given all the jadu pocha work to the cleaners only. Why he has not kept anything for himself? So it's like, no, he doesn't do all these things. He's everything is completely under his control, and he's having no. He has taken one portfolio, that is the protection of the living entities. Vishnu has maintenance and protection of the living entities, Poshana. So that one portfolio, like Vishnu has kept it for himself. Okay. Are we dependent on demigods for our organs? Yeah. Even to blink our eyes, no, even to lift our hands, even to do anything, no, any movement of our body, we need to have the sanction and permission of various demigods. Otherwise, it is not possible. So, like, no, we are just moving around and speaking and seeing so many things and things like that. So in all these actions we have the desire, and it is sanctioned by the demigods, and it is executed. So it's so seamlessly this whole process happens. It's so seamlessly this happens that every moment we are dependent on the demigods. Okay, so if you can briefly discuss how worshipping the controlling deity one can improve these things like speech, hearing, etc. Just curious, so that and also along with chanting can keep in the mind to avoid further sins and also past known and unknown sins. So sins can only be destroyed by the worship of Vishnu, and approaching the demigods separately, without the Supreme Lord, without approaching the Supreme Lord, will also become a sinful act. It's almost like considered to be like a bribing of a government authority. So a government authority is there, and like if electricity department is there, so how can I get some free current to my home? So can I do something to that electricity department head? So then it is technically called bribe, and it's a sin. So if we perform our natural functions as devotees of the Lord, automatically all the demigods, they would align, and they would try to serve in the best way possible, right? So rather than if we want to do these things, then there are like 33 crore devatas, devi devatas are there, and how many of them we can actually worship, and how many of them we can actually do things with, right? So if we are worshiping the devata for speech, and then something happens with our like evacuation, then we have to like worship the Mitra Devata. So that is like who's in charge of evacuation, and we are worshiping them, and then suddenly like there is another thing that happens, like no, I'm having some skin disease or something like that. Then I have to worship Ashwini Kumaras. So then I have some other problem, some other problem. It's like huge thing. No, it's a very vicious cycle. And in fact, Krishna mentions kama istha hrita jnanaha prapadyante anya devata. So one who's filled with kama or material desires, so they go to the anya devata and they try to worship, and then it's quite miserable. So they keep shifting from one to another, this problem to that problem, and things like that. So better it is to focus on one aspect, that is the devotion to the Supreme Lord. And demigod worship is not recommended here. So like it is like no, I remember this thing. So when we had construction work happening in our temple, so the laborers, I was in charge of the dispersal of their weekly remuneration, and the laborers would come and pester me, saying, "Swamiji, please give us a little more money. Like no, next week you can adjust, or we did this work, and no, you should give me more," and things like that and all. They did not know that somebody, my boss, is sitting in top, like no, the temple president. No, he has to approve. So if he approves, only like things will happen. I would say, why are you actually pestering me? You go to him. So if he sanctions, I'm going to give. So there is nothing that I can hold up, or I can give without his permission. So it's not possible. So if you are intelligent enough, you should go to the president, and then you should ask him. So then you'll say like, no, like if you can give something, if you can do something, like you give. No, I don't want to go to the president. No. So then I would not do. So it's like, it's actually they are trying to bribe me, trying to get something out of me. So whatever has been sanctioned by the Lord, that is what this 33 crore Devi Devatas can do. So if we are intelligent enough, then we will approach the right person who can actually call the shots. So we will not waste our time with people who are just servants, who are just order carriers, who cannot do anything but sanction or work according to the dictation of the Lord. So it's intelligence to go to the person who's calling the shots, no person who's actually doing things, no, who's in charge of everything. So that's the Supreme Lord, and we should take shelter of the Supreme Lord. Okay, so with this, we will finish today's discussion. Thank you all very much for joining. And in this auspicious Kartik month, we are able to read Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita every day. So that's really, really very wonderful. And we will all make a tremendous spiritual advancement with this. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.